Okay, so let's get started. If anyone else comes along, then I can catch them up at the end. You are all here today because you have opted to do the placement rather than the professional challenge. So I'm going to give you as much information as I can to support you with sourcing and completing your placement, as well as giving you information on what we will need you to do as a university before you can go out on placement. So please feel free to take pictures of any of these slides, but I am going to share them. I will upload them onto Moodle, and I can always email them out to you if you need them. So everything will be shared, but like I said, please feel free to make notes or take pictures of any slides that you think are going to be important to you. So as you will be aware, your placement will be during a 2-week block. That 2-week block is from the 2nd until the 12th of May. You can't really do your placement outside of those those dates because we have scheduled this into your module so that you don't have any lectures, you don't have any assignments or anything like that. You're free for the 2 weeks to do a full-time placement. So ideally we don't want you to be doing anything outside of those dates. If for whatever reason there is something that's come up and it might start a couple of days earlier and finish a couple of days later or something like that, just come and discuss it with me. Luckily enough for you guys, I am your placement officer. So there's 3 placement officers. We all cover different courses. Today, it just so happens that I'm the one doing the presentation and I am the journalism placement officer. So if there are any queries that you do have in regards to the dates, just let me know. But if you can, when you are looking and sourcing your placement, ideally stick to the dates that have been given to you because that's what's been built into your module and built into your calendar. Let me click next. Doesn't want to do it for me. Some simple bullet points. It is your responsibility to source your own placement. So when you were sent out the information in regards to whether you want to do the placement or the challenge, it will have said on there that if you opt to do the placement, it is ultimately your responsibility to go out there and source this placement yourself. Ideally, you'll already have something in mind. You may already be speaking to an organisation. It may be somebody that you know, somebody that you've worked with previously, but ultimately it is your responsibility. The way that we can support you will be via drop-ins and one-to-one appointments. So every placement officer has different drop-in days and different one-to-ones. Mine, which is for you, are on a Monday, so from 1 till 2 on a Monday, I sit in the atrium. You do not need to book an appointment. You can just come along and ask me a question. I'll have a huge banner so you won't miss me. And that is just if you're passing, you've got a quick question, come along and ask me. 1 till 2 on a Monday. If you have a question that maybe is confidential that you don't want to potentially ask in front of others, or you need a little bit more time, or you want me to have a look at your CV, you want me to help you to contact organisations, all of that sort of thing, you're better off booking a one-to-one appointment. My one-to-one appointments are run every Thursday from 11 till 1. You can book onto these via My Career. So if you log on to My Career, I know it'll be quite a new programme for you, but if you log on, the top tab says appointments, click that, make sure that you click my name and not the other placement officers' names, and then you just select a slot within that time and you can book a one-to-one. If for whatever reason Thursdays don't work for you, so I cover 5 different courses, it's impossible for me to make sure that I find a day where students are on campus and it's between their lectures and things like that. So if it doesn't work for you, just drop me an email. I'm not going to say, oh, you can't have an appointment then. We'll find a time that works. And we just need to make sure that we're booking it in advance, just because obviously there's lots of other things that I need to be getting on with as well. There are CV and interview sessions. It's not noted down on here. I think it's further on. Oh, yeah, it's at the bottom. So we do run CV and interview workshops. So these are every single Wednesday and every single Thursday. These are from 1 till 2 and they are in LC 108, which is in the library. These sessions are there for you to come along and have your CV looked at. We can help you tailor a CV for a specific placement or even a part-time job if you're applying for part-time jobs. If you've got an upcoming interview, or you know you might be having some upcoming interviews, we can help you with interview practice, all of that sort of stuff. Application forms. You may find now that when you're applying for jobs, a lot of organisations actually ask for an application form rather than just uploading your CV. So we can help you with how to answer application form questions as well. If for whatever reason my drop-ins and my one-to-ones don't work for you, please feel free to come along to the CV and interview help desk. I'll be there anyway. Rather than me just sitting there and not speaking to any students, I'd rather you come along and ask me a general query, even if it's not just about CV and interviews. So we do try and run things across every day to try and meet you all, and try and be able to support you all. But if there are any times that you can't come in, just let me know. And we can do the one-to-one appointments via Teams. So if you're not in uni on a Thursday, you have an option when you're booking the appointment, whether you want it face-to-face or whether you want it to be done via Teams. Just select which one, and then hopefully that means we're a little bit flexible for you guys to make sure that we can get in and we can see you. There is loads and loads of resources on Moodle. So if you haven't done so already, when you go onto Moodle, you will be able to access what we call the placements page. On there are things like CV templates. So if you don't have a CV yet, or you do have a CV but you're not sure if it's any good or not, feel free to download the CV template. They're all course specific, so download the journalism CV template. And you can either cross-check to see if your CV has all the information that's required, that's outlined on the template, or you could literally use the template, copy all your information across, and then at least you know that, yeah. As well as the CV template, we have placement area slides, we have knowing your industry. So these presentations are industry specific again, giving you ideas of where you could go and do your placement, the types of organisations you can think about contacting, the types of skills that you would need to develop whilst on placement. It gives you links to really useful websites such as prospects.ac.uk. So there is loads and loads of information on Moodle as well. There will also be this presentation, so if you miss anything or you can't remember some of the information that I've gone through, it will all be uploaded onto Moodle. So, placement requirements. So ideally, placement needs to be relevant to the course that you're studying, and it should include transferable skills. So we do go into this a lot more in your second year in regards to the skills that you need to be thinking about developing, but really do try and think about what placement is going to be relevant to your degree, and what placement is going to be relevant to your chosen career path. If you're not sure or you're struggling, this is when you need to come to one of the support sessions and we can have a conversation about it. If your placement is with your current employer, so if any of you do have part-time jobs, you can use your part-time job as your placement. However, it really needs to be different to what you are employed to do. So for argument's sake, if you are working in retail or hospitality, if it's not related to your course, so we wouldn't be able to pass it as that. But if you were doing something that was different to your usual duties, for example, you might be doing some research for them, you might shadow a manager, something that's above and beyond your usual duties. If you can make it relatable to the course that you're studying, perfect. If not, we will allow it, but it will need to be approved by your module coordinator to say, yeah, we think that's going to be a good placement for them and we're happy to approve it. So just bear that in mind. Also, if you are using your current employer, we will need them to complete a number of documents. So a lot of students do try and say that they're using their part-time job as their placement, but they don't tell their manager or supervisor that that's what they're doing. So when they get an email from us, they're really confused, because what they're trying to do is kill two birds with one stone really, and do their part-time job and their placement, treat it as one. But like I said, they've not been made aware of it, and then when the email comes through from us to say thank you for taking the student on placement, we get emails back to say I'm a little bit confused here. So if you are going to be using your current employer, make sure you're having a conversation with them, because they will receive documents from us, and also bear in mind that it will need to be approved, because we'll need to make sure that it is something, like I said, either above and beyond your usual duties or related to the course that you're studying. So in your module handbook, you will see that placements need to be a minimum of 20 hours. So you need to complete 20 hours to pass the module. We recommend that you do full-time hours over the 2 weeks. It's only 2 weeks. What some students try and do is literally 20 hours across 3 days. If you can do that and the placement provider is happy with that, technically you'll still pass the module because you've done your minimum requirement of hours. But just bear in mind that, you know, placement providers will probably want you for longer than that. And don't just sort of start a placement and once you've finished your 20th hour, you get up and leave. You know, make sure that you're leaving on good terms, because you may very well go back and do the same placement for your second year placement where it's 150 hours that you need to complete. So make sure that you're leaving on good terms. Any projects and tasks they've given that you're completing, you're not just doing your minimum 20 hours and then leaving. Placements need to ideally be a medium to high skilled role to be approved, and what we mean by this is the skills that you're going to develop whilst on placement. I do have a list of what's classed as like a high skilled and medium skilled role, which I'm happy to share with you, but ultimately if it's related to the degree that you're doing, it will be absolutely fine. Low skilled roles for your placement are things such as retail customer service, but something that's not above and beyond your usual duties. So just bear that in mind, because we will need to assess whether they're medium to high skilled roles. The placement provider will be sent a health and safety checklist. You cannot start until we've received this back. This is because we have a duty of care for you when you are out on placement. We need to make sure that the environment is safe for you, the location, all of these things. So we will send them a health and safety form. They will complete it, send it back to us. Once we've got that, then you know you're good to go. So it might be a case of, if you are reaching out to employers, just letting them know that they will need to complete this just so that they're aware of it. Placements need to be approved before you can start. So I'll go through the process in a minute, but you will need to you'll need to fill in a form, submit your placement details. We will look at what it is that you're doing, make sure that the dates are correct, make sure that you're going to get the right amount of hours, make sure that health and safety's come back. Once all that's done, it's all approved and you're ready to start, which is why we've got a deadline, which I'll go through with you in a minute. There is a placement pathway on My Career, and this needs to be completed as well. So the placement pathway it's like an online portal which sort of tracks. It helps for us and it helps for you to track what you've been doing and where you're at. So for example, the first task on the pathway is attending this session. The second path on the pathway is completing a placement allowance form. So they're only small little tasks, but it's kind of like a little bit of a checklist for you to make sure that you've done everything before you go out on placement. The final task on the pathway is a pre-departure briefing video. This is all about your health and safety, what you need to think about and prepare before you go out on placement. And it's also a little bit of information about like professional misconduct, how to act when you're out on placement. So you need to make sure that you've completed all of these tasks on the pathway before, again, you can go out on placement. The pathway can be found on My Career, so log on to My Career, click Pathways at the top, and it's called Professional Placement Pathway. Click that one and it's really easy. Just click Start Activity and it just follows through to the next task, so it's really simple to do. Students need to complete a timesheet and email it to the personal tutor. This is so that we can ensure that you are doing the right amount of hours. You will be emailed a timesheet automatically when you fill in a placement form. So as soon as you go on and fill in a placement form, you will be emailed a link to the timesheet. Just every time you're working, put your hours in there and then we can make sure that you're doing the right amount of hours that you need to be doing. Are there any UKVI students in here today? Yourself? Okay. So I don't know a lot about this at the minute, but there are additional conditions for yourself just because you are a visiting student. So you'll be contacted a little bit more regularly throughout the 2 weeks, so probably at the beginning of the week and the end of the week, just to make sure that everything's going okay. But other than that, I think that's all. That's the only.
I just had a question.
Yeah.
Because I'm only allowed to do maximum 20 hours.
Yes. That's fine. Yeah, so you only need to do 20 hours to pass the module. So if you can only do a maximum of 20 hours, that's absolutely fine. But I believe you've already filled in a placement form, haven't you? Yeah. So I'll grab you at the end because there was another thing that I just need to go through with you. We'll have a chat about it at the end, but that's fine, that it's just that you can only do 20 hours. So health and safety checks, as well as us sending a health and safety check to your placement provider, you will need to complete one as well. We will send you this form again. When you fill in the placement form with all of your placement details, you will automatically receive a link to the student health and safety form. Again, it's so that we can check that everything's okay, the environment that you're going into, you're happy with, location. It asks you questions such as, are there any risks with the location that you're going to? Is there anything that's going to affect you getting to and from your placement on time? It's things like that. Again, this needs to be completed prior to you going out, because we need to know that you understand the policies, what you need to do if you're sick, if you're unwell, anything like that. So you must make sure that you complete the health and safety check before you go out as well. Like I said, we will send you the link as soon as you fill in the placement form. So if anybody needs a DBS check, so if you think you're going to be working with vulnerable adults or young people, if you're going to be working with children, you will most likely need to have a DBS check. We will provide you with a DBS application form. We will fund the DBS, it's about £80. We will do all of that on your behalf. You just need to make sure that when you're filling in the placement form where it says, do you need a DBS, you're clicking yes. As soon as you click yes, we will automatically again send you a DBS application form. You need to fill this in, but then you need to go and take it to the post office with your ID, send it off, and then that will come back, and then you will have a full DBS. What we do recommend is, if you think you're going to need a DBS ongoing, is to sign up for the sign-on service. It's £13 a year. This needs to be funded by yourself, but it is only £13 a year. It's less than £1 a month. But what that means is you will always have an up-to-date DBS. It will continuously refresh, and it will always be up to date, so you never need to go through the process again. So if you think that you will need this for now and for your ongoing career, make sure that once we've done the initial application and everything for you, that you do sign up for the ongoing service. There is some more information about DBSs on Moodle, but if you've got any questions, feel free to ask me. So we put together a little plan of action, so things for you all to start thinking about and doing ideally as soon as possible, because the deadline for you to submit your placement details is the 17th of March. The reason why it's the 17th of March is because then it gives us time to make sure that we're getting all the health and safety back from the provider and from yourselves, that we're able to approve it before you go out on placement at the beginning of May. So, update your CV using the templates on Moodle. So have a look at the template on Moodle, and there's loads of information on there. Like I said, they're course specific, so download the template, have a look. But if you do need any additional advice on your CV or interviews, come along to the CV and interview help desk, which is Wednesdays and Thursdays 1 till 2, LC018. If you need specific placement advice, my drop-in sessions, like I said, are Mondays from 1 till 2 in the atrium. You don't need to book onto those, you can just drop in, or you can book onto a one-to-one, which are Thursdays 11 till 1, but you must book a slot via My Career. If those times don't work for you and you need to speak to me, just drop me an email. I'll give you all my email address at the end of this presentation. Drop me an email, just let me know, look, I work or I'm not on campus or whatever. Let me know and we'll try and find another date and time that suits you. Make sure that you're reviewing the placement area slides and resources that are available to you on the placements page on Moodle. Obviously, if you're sorted, some of you might already be sorted, then you don't need to. But if you are stuck, you don't know where to start, you don't know what sort of organisations to contact or what to do, the placement area slides are the best place to start. So have a look at those. Keep in contact with the Careers and Placements team and your personal tutor. Let us know where you're at once you're sorted. Let us know what you're waiting for. Just let us know where you're at, so that if you do need further support, we can make sure that we can help you. Submit your bank details using the QR code on the next slide. So in a minute there'll be a QR code. This is for you to submit your bank details. So it's a Microsoft form and it literally asks you for your name on the card, sort code and account number. that goes straight through to finance. So don't worry, I don't have access to it. No one, the other students don't have access to it. That goes straight through to finance because they will process your placement allowance. So everybody that goes out on placement is entitled to a £50 placement allowance. I know it's not a lot of money, especially given the current climate, but it is there to support you if you've got travel, lunches, that sort of thing. It's just a little bit of an additional extra money in your bank account if you do need it to support you when you're out on placement. Once you secure your placement, make sure you submit your details on eVision for approval by the 17th of March. So if you log on to eVision and you click placements, a big orange box will come up that says submit your placement details. Click that box, there'll then be a drop down and it'll say level 4 and 5 or level 6. Make sure that you're clicking level 4 and 5 and then you'll get a form. The form will ask you for things like your name, your student number, but then it will ask you for all of the details for the organisation that you're going to. It will ask you for your supervisor's details. It will ask you for their address. So make sure you've got all of this information together. Go on, fill in the form. That comes straight through to us. We have a look at all the details. If it's, for example, completely journalism related, we won't need to send it on to your module coordinator for approval. We'll just approve it, sending out all the health and safety forms. If it's something, for example, if it's your part-time job or it's not related to your degree, I will probably send it on to personal tutors or module coordinators just to check if they're happy for you to go ahead, but I can't see it being a problem. Making sure you're updating your pathway on My Career. So I've gone through that previously. It is simply log on to My Career. If you don't know how to get onto My Career, it will be if you've got the LTU app or their homepage, it's C+P. Click the C+P, it'll give you a link to My Career and it's all the tabs along the top. So just click the pathway top at the top and just make sure that you're completing that. And again, if your placement requires DBS, make sure that you tick the box on the placement form, then we know to send you out the application form and we can get that completed for you as soon as possible. Here is your QR code. If it doesn't work on here for whatever reason, it should do, but this QR code is also outside our office, which is AG12. It's also all over Moodle and it's also the first part on the pathway. So when you go onto the pathway, one of the first tasks is to obviously do your placement allowance form. It gives you a link to the form on there as well. So if for whatever reason you can't scan the QR code today, it's everywhere, so don't worry about it. And if you can't find it, just let me know and I'll email you the link separately. So just a couple of things to consider. Most employers will be looking for students to work on a full-time basis, so I have mentioned this. Even though the minimum requirement of hours is 20, ideally you do want to be thinking about just working whatever the business's full-time hours are over those 2 weeks. So if it's 9 to 5, you're doing 9 to 5 Monday to Friday. Just because if you're ringing organisations and you're saying I need to do 20 hours of placement, they're probably going to think by the time you get started you'll be finishing, so what's the point? So ideally be looking at doing full-time hours across those 2 weeks. Make sure that you consider any implications to any part-time work. So if you do have a part-time job, of course the last thing that we want is for you to have to, not be paid for 2 weeks because you need to do your placement. So just make sure that you take this into consideration. If you're not using your part-time job as your placement, maybe think about hours that you can do in and around your placement, maybe doing weekends or something different. If you're really struggling but you really want to do a placement, this is why you should be coming and booking a one-to-one appointment, because we'll try and help and support you to figure out how you can juggle it all at the same time, essentially. Make sure that you budget for your placement. £50 is not going to get you a long way. We will give you the £50 and it is a little bit extra for you so that you can buy a bus pass and things like that. But just make sure that you are budgeting for your placement. If you're looking to go and do your placement in London, £50 is not going to get you very far, is it? So just make sure that you know that it's going to be feasible for you. You can afford to do it based on travel, lunches, all of that sort of thing. So make sure that you do budget for your placement. Start contacting employers and agree placements now. The deadline will come very quickly, so please do make sure that you're sorting it out now. Don't think, oh, I've got ages, I'm going to prioritise other things. Just make sure that you are aware that it needs to get confirmed by the 17th of March and start reaching out to employers now. Placements need to be medium to high skill level, I've already mentioned that. You can work with your current employer, but again, placements need to be, like I said, above and beyond your usual duties, or at least different to your usual duties, and it'll need to be approved. If for whatever reason you are not able to confirm a placement by the 17th of March, it may be that it falls through last minute, or the placement that you thought you were going to get, they can no longer offer you one, or you've tried and you've looked everywhere but you've just not been successful. Don't worry, you will not fail the module. You will automatically be transferred onto the professional challenge. So if you've not confirmed anything with us by the 17th of March, it will be an automatic transfer. If, for argument's sake, you are just waiting for the supervisor to come back to you to confirm something, let me know, because then we can confirm it after the 17th of March if we know what the situation is and why there's been a delay and why you couldn't get it approved pre-17th of March. If you've not let me know, then I will automatically assume that you weren't able to find anything, so then you will be put onto the professional challenge. So important dates for your diary, the placement block, which is the 2nd of May to the 12th of May. The placement allowance form, complete it as soon as possible. Don't worry about whether you've got a placement yet or not, don't worry. Get it completed, because then as soon as you do confirm your placement, there'll be no issues when we're processing that payment for you. Placement details need to be submitted for approval on eVision by the 17th of March. And the health and safety deadline is the 31st of March. So if you confirm your placement on the 17th of March and you only just received the health and safety form, you've then got until the 31st to get that completed. But hopefully you'll get it all sorted before then.